Hi, good morning, FIATech members and FIATech friends, and I hope you're all enjoying getting back to work and getting started on this Tuesday. I am Nicole Testa Boston, the Deputy Director at FIATech, and I'm really glad that you were able to join us this morning for our weekly Technology Tuesday webinar series talking about managing operational safety and compliance risk with effective asset information management. With that, I am going to go ahead and introduce Mike Jordan, who is the Vice President of American Sales for NRX Global, which is a member company of FIATech. He is a professional engineer with degrees in mechanical and electrical engineering, and he has 25 years of experience in providing automation solutions for asset-intensive industries. We are very pleased to have you with us today, Mike, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you.
Hi, good morning. This is an exciting topic that FIATech has queued up for us this morning. It's going to be a bit of a stretch to make it interactive. I really would try to do that. So please key in questions and pass those to Nicole, and we will try to make this as interactive as we can.
I hate to interrupt you, Mike, but I've already gotten 2 questions and I forgot to mention it. We will be recording and making this presentation available after the fact on the FIATech website. So for those of you who are typing in about that, it will be available later this week at fiatech.org.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so you don't have to take such frantic notes. We see operational safety and compliance risk management is a rising priority for companies in asset-intensive industries. You and we've all seen disparate efforts in safety, environmental compliance, and asset utilization at the facility level. But now those activities are all merging into conversations at the enterprise level regarding improved control and management accountability. In fact, we're seeing the thought leaders in asset-intensive industries that are making substantial efforts today in this area not only improve risk mitigation, but are also able to create enduring competitive advantage. I'll tell you just a bit about who NRX is and how we play in this space, and then we'll jump right into the topic. NRX is a software company that focuses specifically on asset information management solutions. We focus particularly in asset-intensive industries, the oil and gas, utility industries, also engineering, construction, operations as they feed into those industries. Primarily, we are an SAP partner. We've worked with SAP since our inception. We're now one of the SAP Endorsed Solutions. I'll talk just briefly about our products. But we engage most often as part of the SAP team. We also have strategic relationships with Accenture, IBM, Intergraph, OpenText, and Bechtel. And we'll talk just a bit about that. The NRX product suites are Asset Center and VIP. Our role with Asset Center is really as a staging area to allow collection, enhancement, transformation, loading of asset master and data to collect information, get accurate information into the maintenance systems of record, then collaboration with vendors, and facilitating management of change to keep that information accurate. Our VIP product is a role-based interface that allows you to build configurable front ends that engage SAP, PM, and material master and supply chain in concert with other applications. So that's our particular role in the conversation, but we're really talking about something bigger than products. It's really a multi-vendor solution to some fairly complex business problems. We see that for many years customers and companies have focused on financial risk, but haven't really focused so much on operational risk. If you define operational risk as a loss from inadequate or failed internal processes, people, or systems, risk not related to market or credit activities, then that really leaves you with things like unexpected plant outages, safety events, damage to environment, and so forth. Risks to the enterprise through those challenges have had significant impact on the bottom line. In 2008, IBM released its risk management study on safety and reliability. You see one of the results of that study here. Study based on in-depth interviews with over 100 execs in chemical and petroleum industry, speaking to chief operating officers, financial officers, executives in health, safety, and environment, as well as the plant managers, found a strong correlation between a focus on risk and market performance. Interestingly, according to that study, the chemical and petroleum companies that outperformed on risk also had a greater return on net assets as well as a higher compound annual growth rate. That offers a lot of promise on several levels. Basically, it puts us in an environment now where improvements in health, safety, and environmental activities aren't just looked at as a cost, but they're looked at as a potential competitive advantage. Also, interestingly, is that companies don't think they're prepared to handle operational risk. Over half of the companies surveyed have encountered high risk events since 2005. That's the year of Texas City refinery explosion, as you all know. The study found that health, safety, and environmental objectives were of the greatest importance to the industry, yet the respondents to the study indicated there was a gap in performance, as you see on the screen. There were similar gaps in meeting objectives for measuring and monitoring business performance and supporting, managing, and mitigating enterprise risk. More importantly, the most serious gaps are in the infrastructure needed to support compliance, risk, health, safety, and the environment. NRX does a lot of our work in concert with SAP, and several of the screens you'll see here are SAP presentations where we participate, so I'll make sure I make proper attribution of the materials. Here's additional conversation from that IBM study, and as you see, the execs really roll together conversations about financial risk and EH&S compliance risk into an overall risk management picture, and all consider that in concert as they look at competitiveness and performance of corporate operations. The situation is not a simple one, as you would well imagine. If it were simple, truthfully, they would have fixed it. The difficulties are multi-level. Corporate headquarters focuses on risk management, looking at activities like focused on operational risk compliance and hoping for proactive compliance management. At the plant level, plant operations and maintenance users struggle with lack of integration and information sharing among the various information silos. It results in spoken as a false sense of security. So if you look at integration in the wrong mode, what you really have is less information, because the merger of information silos prevents the smart, experienced operator from looking at the information at the necessary detail, and really results in that false sense of security. Again, rolling together the various scenarios, it's quite easy for large companies to spend money working in individual silos without a consistent, reliable approach for managing safety and compliance. Therefore, you wind up in a situation where you've got comfort or lack of information at headquarters, at the plant level, and customers aren't really aware that they're more susceptible to catastrophic failure and operational risk. It's an interesting conversation to begin discussing why customers or owner-operators should spend money in this area. Here's one way of looking at the challenge that SAP uses quite often, really building the conversation around what is maintainable as a comfort level, as a reasonable operating margin, and then what activities can be undertaken to avoid failure and increase reliability of temporary shutdowns? And even more importantly, what activities can be undertaken specifically to eliminate those lost profit opportunities associated with more lengthy shutdowns? If you look at a holistic approach to the problem, which is really where the market is going, where we see the most opportunity, it is indeed possible to spend no more money than owner-operators are spending today, but think in a more holistic fashion to say, how do we build the silos such that there is essential information sharing at key points, such that visibility and transparency are promoted to reduce the overall cost and operational risk, rather than just build the silos such that information isn't shared as it's needed. Now, we will be sharing these slides. I appreciate the slides are quite busy. We're going to move pretty quickly through this so that we can get to questions and answers. So I'm going to move through them quickly. I understand you can't read everything as fast as you'd like, and you'll get them afterwards from Nicole, so don't worry about it. The area where the SAP team is focused is really in assessment of operational risk management best practices, allowing us to work together with the owner-operators and with a team of vendors to assess an operational risk management maturity, and then look at where it's most productive to spend investment in order to raise the owners in through an incremental set of stages that will promote operational risk management, rather than just building silos that doesn't provide the visibility necessary. I want to talk specifically about a case study where a number of vendors have come together to work with ExxonMobil. We'll get into this case study as a specific conversation about how the SAP team has applied these assessment principles. Nicole, any questions we should look at before we jump into this?
Right now I don't have any, so we can proceed. Thanks.
All right, perfect. When we, the SAP team, engaged with ExxonMobil, they had a perception that they had a number of pressing business problems. They have, like all major oil and gas owner-operators, have made most of their automation investment decisions. They've engaged SAP as the enterprise asset management and supply chain vendor. They also have engaged enterprise content management vendors, asset performance management vendors, engineering information management vendors, and for the most part, each of these vendors was performing superbly. They had champions within the organization, they had budget, and they were meeting their missions individually. Where Exxon was struggling was that the connect points between these various silos weren't working smoothly. In fact, there was perceptions of turf issues between the various domains. And again, interestingly, it wasn't necessarily the vendors as much as the internal champions that felt that their turf was being threatened. The content management guys thought the engineering information management guys were intruding on their stuff. The supply chain guys thought they weren't getting the right information. The enterprise asset management guys were. So it was just a question of knitting together the various information silos. And when you look at an overarching business need, such as operational risk management, the motivation was there to take a broader look. What the SAP team did, in effect, was say, we believe there really is a set of solutions that make sense. Truthfully, we don't think you, ExxonMobil, are going to get there if you bring each of the vendors in individually and have them make their presentations and you try to figure out how it works. SAP instead volunteered to say, why don't we pull together with the with the coalition of the willing, to pull together the vendors that you have as trusted advisors and see if we can't give you recommendations that bridge the gaps. Exxon took those suggestions to heart, and what came of it was a set of SAP recommended best practices for ExxonMobil. The vendors that participated were Intergraph as the enterprise engineering automation vendor, Meridium as the asset performance management vendor, NRX and SAP. And it came together as a combined presentation and set of recommendations rather than each vendor going in individually, and all coalescing under the SAP partner ecosystem for lifecycle asset information management. By being able to speak outside of the four walls of an individual application, it allowed the SAP team to talk about some very holistic challenges where ExxonMobil needs to change, in focusing largely on performance and operational risk management. It also allowed the team to speak beyond the role of an individual vendor regarding how the set of partners can help. We also engaged the SAP Value Engineering Organization, as you saw described in the earlier slide, to really be the honest broker to determine if we can get these best practice processes to work, what do we, the vendors, believe is possible in terms of benefits. And as you see, it's a set of numbers large enough to motivate ExxonMobil to pay attention. It was an interesting bit of work as we pulled the vendors together. It allowed the vendor teams to each speak candidly about strengths and weaknesses, how they might play together, how they might offer a set of solutions. Truthfully, this work is ongoing. As we move forward, the customer has introduced other vendors to the network to say, would you broaden this work in certain areas? But as the team pulled together under SAP's guidance, we set a number of base assumptions. We said, first of all, we will only talk about applications that are released. We won't talk about futures. We won't talk about if they fund it, then we'll have it. We also use the SAP Value Engineering Organization as the honest broker, as I said, to say we'll focus specifically in areas where there is defensible return on investment. As we said earlier, the topics of operational risk management and performance improvement are really pulling together. So it is, in most cases, very practical to speak in a consolidated fashion about performance improvement and risk mitigation with measurable return. So we use that as the mechanism to filter out the techie conversation of wouldn't it be cool if we did. So we wanted measurable return as we did that. When we did that, the set of recommendations really boiled into a focus on 6 primary business processes. Here you see those processes. Truth, the list is still growing as we engage